The Northeast housing market has 54.9% fewer homes for sale than it did before the pandemic. Not 5%, not 10%, 54.9%. If you've been watching headlines that say the housing market is finally cooling, if you've been waiting for prices to drop in your city and they just haven't, you weren't misreading the market. You were being shown the wrong market. I pulled the actual regional data. Here's what it shows. I'm the honest analyst. I don't tell you what to think about the housing market. I show you what the data actually says. I'm not predicting where prices go from here. I'm showing you the pattern in the numbers and letting you decide what it means for your situation. Here's the thesis of this entire video. Stated plainly, the national housing crash you keep reading about is a statistical illusion. While overbuilt Sunbelt cities and insurance-battered Florida metros are seeing real price drops, a historic shortage of supply has locked the rest of America into a permanent affordability crisis. And the national average is hiding both stories at the same time. Let's go through exactly how that works. Start with the number that breaks the national narrative. According to NAR's Q1 2026 data, the median home price in the Northeast is $506,500, up 4.9% year over year. In the Midwest, $308,100, up 3.6%. Those aren't crashing. Those aren't even softening. That's appreciation. Now look at why. Realtor.com's inventory data shows the Northeast is still 54.9% below pre-pandemic supply norms. The Midwest is 39.4% below. That's not a shortage. That's a structural freeze. Hartford, Connecticut is the extreme case. Inventory there sits 82.1% below its pre-pandemic baseline. Providence, Rhode Island, 61.1% below. These aren't just tight markets, they're markets where supply has essentially stopped functioning. Any home that lists gets multiple offers immediately because there's almost nothing else to buy. The mechanism behind this is what's called the lock-in effect. The vast majority of current homeowners are sitting on mortgage rates below 3.5%. Unless something forces them to move, a job relocation, a divorce, a major life change, they have no financial incentive to list. Moving means trading a 3% rate for a 6.5% rate. On a $400,000 home, that's roughly $1,000 more per month. So they stay, and inventory stays frozen with them. Now, flip to the other side of the country. In Phoenix, Arizona, 50.8% of all active home listings had to execute a price cut just to find a buyer in early 2026. That's not a correction. That's a buyer's market. The pandemic demand that drove Phoenix prices to irrational highs has completely evaporated, and sellers are now competing against each other to move properties. Florida is worse. 7 of the 8 largest cities in Florida are posting price declines. Cape Coral-Fort Myers led the entire nation with a 9% to 10.2% price drop, down to a median of $341,250. The driver isn't just demand, it's insurance. Homeowners' insurance premiums in Florida have spiked to levels that are functionally changing what a home actually costs to own, and that's being priced in. Here's the through line. The national average, the number that says home values are essentially flat, up a meager 0.2% according to Zillow's own internal projections, is mathematically combining a market that's crashing in Cape Coral with a market that's surging in Hartford. When you blend those together, you get a headline number that accurately describes almost nobody's actual local reality. And one more data point that makes this concrete. Detroit's median sale price jumped 17% in early 2026. Detroit, the city that didn't experience the pandemic price explosion, now has room to catch up. And it's catching up fast. Now, to be fair, the people who say the market is improving aren't entirely wrong. Mortgage rates have pulled back from their 2023 peak and are stabilizing in the low 6% range. And there are reasonable analysts who believe that as rates continue to ease, more homeowners will finally list, inventory will gradually rebuild, and prices in locked markets will moderate over time. That's a legitimate position. Here's what this data doesn't tell us. It doesn't tell us when the lock-in effect breaks. It doesn't tell us whether a rate cut of 1 or 2 percentage points will be enough to move sellers who locked in at 2.75%. And it doesn't tell us whether the insurance crisis in Florida spreads or stays contained. What it does show clearly is this. Right now, in the first half of 2026, the national average is actively misleading buyers in high-demand, low-inventory markets. And waiting for a national correction to save you in Hartford or Boston or Chicago is not a strategy. It's a trap. The data shows a gap that won't hold indefinitely. Either the lock-in effect breaks, rates fall enough that a meaningful wave of homeowners decide to list, supply finally returns to frozen markets, and prices gradually moderate over the next 18 to 24 months, or rates stay elevated, inventory stays scarce, and buyers in high-demand cities continue to face the same bidding wars and the same prices, because the structural shortage simply doesn't resolve. What each of those means for you depends entirely on where you are. If you're in Phoenix or Cape Coral, the data already supports patience. You have options, and sellers are negotiating. If you're in the Northeast or Midwest, the data says the opposite, waiting for a drop that requires a supply solution that doesn't yet exist. Here's my read. For whatever it's worth, the people in the Reddit threads who say inventory is up nationally but feels like a lie in their city are not wrong. The national number is being distorted by a glut of listings concentrated in Florida and Texas. Half the country is not experiencing inventory recovery. Half the country is experiencing the same freeze it's been in for 2 years, and the headlines are not telling them that. Here's the question the data doesn't answer. What actually breaks the lock-in effect? Some of you are going to look at these numbers and say rates need to fall to the mid-fives before sellers move in volume. And until that happens, the Northeast and Midwest stay frozen. Others are going to say the life events will do it. Job relocations, divorces, estate sales. The organic churn of life will slowly rebuild supply regardless of where rates sit. Both of those are defensible reads. I want to know where you land, and more importantly, if you're in one of these locked markets, what are you actually seeing on the ground? Drop it in the comments. I read everyone. There is no US housing market. There's your housing market, and the data is finally specific enough to show you which one you're actually in.